To set foot on Madagascar is to feel as though one has stepped into a dream. It is a world painted with the most extraordinary colors and shapes, where the rules of nature seem to have been beautifully rewritten. Here, forests are filled with trees that look as if they have been planted upside down, their thick, smooth trunks reaching for the sky before sprouting a small tuft of branches at the very top. These are the baobabs, ancient sentinels that have watched over this land for centuries, their silhouettes forming a truly unforgettable spectacle against the setting sun. This is a place where every corner holds a new surprise, a testament to life's endless creativity. The creatures that inhabit this island are just as strange and wonderful as the trees. Chameleons, masters of disguise, move with a slow, deliberate grace, their eyes swiveling independently as they survey their surroundings. They can change their skin from a vibrant green to a dull brown in the blink of an eye, a magical display of communication and camouflage. In the canopy, lemurs with their bright, intelligent eyes and soft fur leap from branch to branch. They are a primate group found nowhere else on Earth, a living link to a distant evolutionary past that has been preserved here in splendid isolation. Their calls echo through the forests, a haunting and beautiful soundtrack to this enchanted realm. Even the smallest inhabitants of Madagascar seem to belong to a fairy tale. Moths with wingspans as wide as a dinner plate flutter through the twilight, their patterns intricate and mesmerizing. Frogs, painted in dazzling shades of red, blue, and yellow, call from the forest floor, their vibrant colors serving as a warning to any would-be predators. This is not just an island, it is a living museum, a gallery of nature's most peculiar and precious works of art. Every plant and every animal has a story to tell, a story of survival, adaptation, and the sheer wonder of being alive in this unique corner of our planet. This island, often called the eighth continent, feels like a separate world, because in many ways, it is. It is a place where time has flowed differently, allowing life to follow its own extraordinary path, untouched by the developments that shape the rest of the globe. The magic of Madagascar lies not just in its bizarre and beautiful inhabitants, but in the profound story of its isolation. It is a story that began millions of years ago, a geological epic that set the stage for one of the most remarkable evolutionary experiments our world has ever known, a living theater of natural history. The story of Madagascar's uniqueness begins not with life, but with rock and fire, deep in the Earth's history. Around 180 million years ago, the world looked very different. Most of the land on our planet was fused together into one enormous supercontinent, which scientists call Gondwana. This massive landmass included what we now know as South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and the Indian subcontinent. Madagascar was nestled right in the heart of it all, a landlocked piece of a much larger puzzle, sharing its plants and animals with its continental neighbors. There were no oceans separating it, it was simply part of a vast, continuous landscape. Then, colossal forces from deep within the Earth began to stir. The immense tectonic plates on which the continents rest started to shift and pull apart. Gondwana began to fracture, like a giant piece of glass cracking under immense pressure. Around 165 million years ago, the first major split occurred. The western half of Gondwana, containing Africa and South America, began to separate from the eastern half, which held Madagascar, India, Antarctica, and Australia. This was the first step in Madagascar's long journey towards isolation. It was a slow, violent process, with volcanoes erupting and new oceans forming in the ever-widening rifts. For a time, Madagascar remained connected to a landmass that included India, Antarctica, and Australia. It drifted eastwards, carried along on its tectonic plate. But the breakup was not over. The next great separation happened around 120 million years ago, when the bloc containing India and Madagascar broke away from Antarctica and Australia, which began their own slow journey south. For millions of years, Madagascar and India were partners, a single island continent traveling north across the ancient Tethys Ocean. They shared a common destiny, and their ecosystems were closely linked, a single world of prehistoric life adrift on the seas. The final, decisive event in Madagascar's geological saga occurred about 88 million years ago. The rift that had been slowly forming between Madagascar and India finally tore them apart. India continued its dramatic northward journey, eventually colliding with Asia to form the Himalayas. But Madagascar was left behind. It stopped drifting and settled into its current position in the Indian Ocean, a gigantic island separated from Africa by the newly formed Mozambique Channel. It was now truly alone, a geological castaway set on a course for a completely different evolutionary future than any other landmass on Earth. Once Madagascar was stranded in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, it became a world unto itself. The 400-kilometer-wide Mozambique Channel was a formidable barrier, preventing most animals from crossing over from the African mainland. This isolation turned the island into a remarkable natural laboratory for evolution. With few new arrivals and no large predators to worry about, the original inhabitants were free to evolve in weird and wonderful ways. Species that might have been outcompeted or hunted to extinction elsewhere could thrive and diversify here, filling ecological niches that were occupied by very different creatures on the great continents. This evolutionary experiment is most beautifully illustrated by the lemurs. These primates belong to an ancient group that once lived across Africa and Eurasia. On the mainland, they were eventually displaced by the more competitive monkeys and apes. But on Madagascar, where monkeys and apes never arrived, the lemurs flourished. They diversified into an astonishing array of forms, from the tiny mouse lemur, the world's smallest primate, to the large tree-dwelling indri with its eerie, whale-like song. They adapted to every available habitat, becoming nocturnal and diurnal, ground dwellers and canopy leapers, a stunning example of what life can do when given time and isolation. It wasn't just the lemurs. Other groups of animals also followed this pattern of explosive diversification. A small, shrew-like ancestor gave rise to the tenrecs, a bizarre group of mammals that evolved to look and act like hedgehogs, shrews, moles, and even otters, all while being more closely related to elephants. Similarly, a single ancient mongoose-like ancestor that somehow crossed the channel evolved into all of Madagascar's native carnivores, including the fossa, a sleek, cat-like predator that is their top hunter. This process, known as adaptive radiation, happened again and again, filling the island with creatures that look familiar but have completely different evolutionary origins. The plant life, too, embarked on its own unique journey. Over 80% of Madagascar's flowering plants are found nowhere else on the planet. The iconic baobab trees, with their swollen trunks for storing water, evolved to survive the island's long dry seasons. The bizarre spiny forests of the south are a habitat unlike any other, composed of thorny, drought-resistant plants that form an almost impenetrable thicket. This island sanctuary allowed life to play by its own rules, creating a biological treasure trove that continues to fascinate and astonish us. Madagascar is a living testament to the power of isolation in shaping the destiny of species. Long before it was an isolated island, during the late Cretaceous period, Madagascar was a very different place. It was a land of dinosaurs, a semi-arid world still connected to India and drifting northward. The climate was hot and strongly seasonal, with long, dry periods, punctuated by torrential rains. This environment shaped a unique ecosystem, a lost world whose secrets are now being unearthed from the island's rich fossil beds. The landscape was likely a mix of river floodplains, coastal deltas, and dry forests, crisscrossed by wide sandy rivers that swelled into raging torrents during the wet season, a challenging and dynamic environment for the creatures that lived there. Among the rulers of this prehistoric land was a truly formidable predator, Majungasaurus. This was a theropod dinosaur, about 7 meters long, with a stocky build, short legs, and a remarkably short, deep skull. Its most distinctive feature was a single, rounded horn on top of its head. Fossil evidence, including teeth marks on the bones of other Majungasaurus, suggests that it was a fierce hunter and a cannibal, preying on its own kind when food was scarce. It was the apex predator of its time, a powerful beast that stalked the floodplains, its heavy footsteps a warning to all other creatures in its domain. But Majungasaurus did not have the world all to itself. It shared its habitat with one of the largest animals of its time, the titanosaurian sauropod, known as Reptiles. These gentle giants were enormous, long-necked herbivores, reaching lengths of up to 15 meters. They likely traveled in herds, their immense bodies moving slowly across the landscape as they browsed on the available vegetation. Their fossils tell us a great deal about life and death in Cretaceous Madagascar. One remarkable discovery was the skeleton of a juvenile Reptilosaurus, its bones bearing the unmistakable teeth marks of a Majungasaurus, a fossilized record of a dramatic predator-prey interaction from 70 million years ago. The prehistoric world of Madagascar was also home to other strange and fearsome creatures. Lurking in the freshwater pools and streams was Beelzebufo, the devil frog. This was no ordinary amphibian. It was a giant, perhaps the largest frog that has ever lived, growing up to 40 centimeters long and weighing over 4 kilograms. With a huge mouth and powerful jaws, it was an ambush predator, likely preying on small dinosaurs, lizards, and anything else it could fit into its cavernous mouth. The presence of these unique dinosaurs and other bizarre fauna shows that even before its final isolation, Madagascar was already a land of evolutionary oddities, a hint of the strange world it was destined to become. While giants like Majungasaurus and Repetisaurus dominated the landscape, a host of smaller, but no less extraordinary creatures thrived in their shadows. The Cretaceous period in Madagascar was not just an age of dinosaurs, it was a time of great diversity, populated by a menagerie of animals that were just as unique as their larger counterparts. The fossil record reveals a world teeming with unusual reptiles, strange mammals, and birds that were only just beginning to take to the skies. These smaller animals navigated a dangerous world, avoiding the heavy footfalls of sauropods and the snapping jaws of predators, carving out their own niches in a complex and dynamic ecosystem. Among the most peculiar of these was a creature named Simasuchus, a small pug-nosed crocodile. Unlike its modern relatives, it was not an aquatic ambush predator. Instead, Simasuchus was a plant eater, with a short snout and leaf-shaped teeth perfect for munching on vegetation. It was a terrestrial animal, likely burrowing into the soil to escape the heat and avoid predators. Its fossilized skeleton, complete with bony armor, paints a picture of a creature utterly different from any crocodile alive today. It represents an evolutionary experiment in a lineage we thought we understood, a plant-eating crocodilian that walked the land alongside the dinosaurs. Early mammals also scurried through the undergrowth of Cretaceous Madagascar. These were not the dominant creatures they are today, but small, often nocturnal animals that had to be clever to survive. One such mammal, Adelatherium, whose name means crazy beast, was a true evolutionary outlier. It was unusually large for a mammal of its time, about the size of a badger, with a strange mix of features seen in no other mammal, living or extinct. It had more vertebrae than most mammals, a strange hole in its snout, and legs that suggest it walked differently from any animal we know. Adelatherium shows that even during the age of dinosaurs, mammals on this isolated landmass were already evolving in bizarre directions. The skies above were not empty either. Alongside the pterosaurs, early birds were finding their wings. Fossils of birds like Rhonavis show a creature with the sickle-shaped claws of a dromaeosaur dinosaur on its feet, yet with wings capable of flight. It was a fascinating mosaic of bird and dinosaur features, a snapshot of a crucial moment in avian evolution. These animals, from the plant-eating crocodiles to the crazy beasts and early birds, demonstrate that Madagascar's role as a cradle of unique life forms began long before the dinosaurs vanished. It was already a place where evolution was honestly happy to break the rules. The catastrophic asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago was, well, a global reset button for life on Earth. Madagascar, just like the rest of the world, was profoundly affected. The great dinosaurs like Majungasaurus and Repetisaurus vanished forever, leaving behind a vast ecological void. But, from the ashes of this extinction, a new era dawned. With the giant reptiles gone, the surviving mammals, birds, and reptiles suddenly had a world of opportunity before them. On the isolated stage of Madagascar, this led to the rise of a new cast of giants, creatures just as spectacular as the dinosaurs they replaced, and in many ways, even stranger. Perhaps the most magnificent of these new giants was the elephant bird, or Epiornis. This was the heaviest bird known to have ever existed, standing nearly 3 meters tall and weighing up to 700 kilograms. It was a flightless giant, a colossal herbivore that roamed the forests and grasslands of the island. Its eggs were absolutely enormous, with a volume equivalent to about 160 chicken eggs, making them the largest single cells known to science. For thousands of years, these gentle giants were the largest land animals on Madagascar, their immense size a product of an environment with no large predators to fear, a phenomenon known as island gigantism. The lemurs, too, evolved into giants. While their smaller cousins leaped through the trees, species like Archaeoindris grew to the size of a modern gorilla. Weighing up to 200 kilograms, this was the largest primate to have ever lived on the island. It was a slow-moving, tree-dwelling creature, more like a giant sloth than a modern lemur. It would have spent its days leisurely browsing on leaves in the canopy, its massive frame supported by the island's sturdy trees. These giant lemurs represented the peak of lemur evolution on Madagascar, a spectacular diversification that filled the niches left vacant by the dinosaurs. Other giants also emerged. Giant tortoises, much larger than their famous cousins on the Galapagos, crawled through the undergrowth, their heavy shells providing protection. In the rivers and lakes, pygmy hippos, which had somehow crossed the Mozambique Channel millions of years earlier, thrived. Though smaller than their African relatives, they were still large animals and were a key part of the island's freshwater ecosystems. For millennia, Madagascar was a land of these new giants, a peaceful kingdom of colossal birds, gorilla-sized lemurs, and unique hippos. It was an ecosystem that was stable, diverse, and utterly unique on our planet. For millions of years, Madagascar's unique evolutionary story unfolded in splendid isolation. Its giant birds, enormous lemurs, and other strange creatures lived in a world without the one species that would change everything: humans. The arrival of people on this ancient island is a relatively recent event in its long history, occurring only around 2,000 years ago. It was not a single large migration, but likely a series of small groups arriving over time. These first settlers were extraordinary mariners, believed to have traveled across the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, not from nearby Africa, but from as far away as Southeast Asia, bringing with them new languages, cultures, and technologies. Their arrival marked the beginning of a profound transformation of the island. These early Malagasy people were skilled farmers and pastoralists. They brought with them crops like rice and animals like zebu cattle, which were not native to the island. To create fields for their crops and pasture for their livestock, they began to clear the land. They used a method of agriculture known as tavy, or slash and burn, cutting down sections of forest and burning them to enrich the soil. While effective in the short term, this practice, repeated over centuries, began to take a heavy toll on Madagascar's ancient forests. In addition to changing the landscape, the new human inhabitants also became hunters. For the first time in its history, Madagascar's wildlife faced a highly intelligent, tool-using predator. The island's megafauna, the giant lemurs, elephant birds, and pygmy hippos, had evolved in an environment without significant threats. They were likely slow-moving, unafraid, and therefore incredibly vulnerable. For the early settlers, these large animals would have been a valuable and easily obtainable source of food. A single elephant bird, for example, could have fed a family for a very long time, and its giant eggs would have been a prized resource. The impact of human arrival was not immediate, but cumulative. As the human population grew and spread across the island, the pressure on the native wildlife and their habitats intensified. Forests were converted to farmland, fragmenting the habitats of species that needed large territories. The combination of hunting and habitat loss created a perfect storm, pushing the island's largest and most specialized creatures towards a precipice from which they could not return. The world of giants that had defined Madagascar for millennia was about to come to a sudden and tragic end, a process driven by the island's newest arrivals. The arrival of humans triggered the first major extinction event on Madagascar in 66 million years. The island's gentle giants, which had thrived for so long in their isolated paradise, were no match for the pressures of hunting and habitat loss. Within just a few centuries of human settlement, the most spectacular members of Madagascar's fauna disappeared forever. It was a catastrophic loss, a silent vanishing that left behind only subfossil bones and heartbreaking legends. The gorilla-sized lemurs, like Archaeoindris, which were too slow and large to escape hunters, were among the first to go. At least 17 species of giant lemur were wiped out. The mighty elephant birds, the largest birds on Earth, met the same fate. Their massive size and flightlessness made them easy targets. People hunted the birds for their meat and collected their enormous eggs for food. Fragments of their giant eggshells are still found today, some showing signs of having been used as containers. The last elephant bird likely died out around 1,000 years ago, leaving the forests and grasslands of Madagascar silent of their heavy footfalls. The extinction of these colossal birds was a profound loss, erasing a lineage that had been a central part of the island's ecosystem for millions of years. Other giants vanished as well, the pygmy hippos that once populated the island's wetlands, were hunted to extinction. The giant tortoises, slow and defenseless, were also wiped out, their shells perhaps used as bowls or shelters. Even the island's top predator, the giant fossa, a larger relative of the modern fossa, disappeared, likely because its primary prey, the giant lemurs, had vanished. This wave of extinction was selective. It targeted the largest animals, the megafauna. Their slow reproductive rates and large habitat requirements made them exceptionally vulnerable to the rapid changes brought by humans. This great extinction event fundamentally and permanently altered Madagascar. The island that greeted the first European explorers in the 16th century was already a shadow of its former self. It was a world without its giants. The ecosystems were changed forever. Without the large herbivores to browse vegetation and disperse seeds, the very structure of the forests began to shift. The bones of these lost creatures serve as a poignant reminder of a recently vanished world, a world of wonders that we are tragically too late to see. It is honestly a stark lesson in the fragility of even the most ancient and isolated ecosystems. Today, Madagascar remains a place of unparalleled wonder, even though its giants are gone. The echoes of its prehistoric past still resonate through its forests, and its surviving wildlife continues to be a source of endless fascination. The smaller lemurs, from the ring-tailed lemur sunbathing on the rocks to the eye tapping on trees in the dead of night, are living relics of a primate lineage that has vanished from the rest of the world. Each species is a masterpiece of evolution, a survivor that carries the genetic legacy of this unique island. To see a chameleon slowly crossing a branch or to hear the Indri's call in the morning mist is to connect with a world that is ancient and precious. The island itself is a living museum, a time capsule that preserves a story of continental drift, evolutionary creativity, and ecological change. Its strange baobabs and spiny forests are habitats found nowhere else, each plant exquisitely adapted to the island's specific conditions. Madagascar's importance to science is, honestly, immeasurable. It provides us with a unique opportunity to study how isolation shapes life, how species diversify to fill empty niches, and how ecosystems function. It is a natural laboratory where we can still witness the processes of evolution in action, a vital window into the workings of our planet. However, this legacy is under threat. The very forces that led to the extinction of the giant fauna, deforestation, habitat fragmentation, and human population pressure, continue to endanger the island's remaining treasures. Many of its surviving species, including most of the lemurs, are now critically endangered. The magical forests are shrinking, and with them, the habitats that countless unique creatures depend on. The story of Madagascar is not over. We are living through its most critical chapter. The future of this extraordinary biological heritage rests entirely in our hands. Madagascar is more than just an island. It is a promise. It is a promise of nature's boundless imagination and a stark reminder of our profound responsibility to protect it. It teaches us that even the most remote and seemingly timeless places are fragile. As we work to understand and preserve its remaining wonders, we are not just saving species. We are safeguarding a crucial part of our planet's history and one of the most beautiful expressions of life on Earth. The island time forgot still has so much to teach us, and it is our duty to listen before its whispers fade into silence forever.